Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode corporate filings so you don't have to. Today we're diving into a proxy statement, which on the surface sounds about as thrilling as watching paint dry, but trust me, there's always some interesting stuff hidden inside these documents. Think of it like corporate hide and seek, except the thing they're hiding is never as fun as you hope it will be. This time, we're looking at Instil Bio, a company working on cell therapies for cancer. The short version is, this document is about who gets to be on the board of directors, who gets to count the money, and how much everyone gets paid. But like peeling an onion, we might shed some tears or find something interesting. Before we start, if you appreciate getting straight insights from corporate documents, make sure you're subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below, so come join us and chat about all things corporate. So this filing is actually a revised proxy statement, meaning they had to refile it to include some data tagging that was accidentally left out the first time. No biggie, just a minor correction, but it shows you how closely the SEC watches these things. This proxy statement is for the annual meeting of stockholders, which is happening in late May. Stockholders get to vote on important stuff like who sits on the board of directors and who audits the company's finances. It's kind of like a popularity contest, but with potentially billions of dollars at stake. The first item on the agenda is electing a director. Bronson Crouch is nominated as a Class I director, which means if elected, he'll serve until the annual meeting in year 2028. His term ends in year 2028, so basically he will be there for 3 years. The second item is to ratify, which basically means to approve the selection of Deloitte & Touche L as the company's independent registered public accounting firm for the year ending December 31, 2025. These are the people who check the company's financial books, so it's important to make sure they're doing a good job. Only those who owned Instil Bio stock on April 2nd get to vote at the annual meeting. So if you bought the stock after that date, your voice doesn't count this time. The report also talks about the independence of the board of directors. Basically, they are making sure that most of the board members aren't too closely tied to the company's management, so they can make unbiased decisions. Everyone except the chief executive officer is considered independent. To be independent is something that is determined by the rules of the Nasdaq stock market. They check to make sure the board members aren't getting any payments, aren't related, and don't have weird business arrangements with the company. This is to prevent people from, for example, voting to give themselves a raise with company money. The company has combined the roles of Chief Executive Officer and Board Chair into one person, Bronson Crouch. It's a move that some companies do, but it can sometimes create conflicts of interest, since the same person is running the company and overseeing its performance. The company mentions that to offset that, they have an independent director to help keep things balanced. The board of directors is in charge of keeping an eye on risks, especially financial risks and data privacy. The board needs to make sure management is handling these risks well. Now, let's look at the numbers. In 2024, Instil Bio paid Deloitte & Touche around $746,000 for audit fees, which are for checking the company's financial statements. In 2023, they paid around $820,000. These fees also include services related to SEC filings. Time for the executive officers. The company's CEO is Bronson Crouch, and the chief financial officer and chief business officer is Sandeep Lomas. Here we see how much stock the bigwigs own. As of April 2, Bronson Crouch owned or controlled a little over 37% of the company's stock. Sandeep Lomas owned about 5%. As a group, all the executive officers and directors own around 47% of the company. So those guys have quite a lot of control over the company's direction. It seems there was one instance where some stock options were reported one day late, but that was it. Small mistake and probably not a big deal. Now to the executive compensation, how much they are getting paid. Bronson Crouch's total compensation was about $53 million, while Sandeep Lomas got about $4 million. A big chunk of that came from option awards, which are basically the right to buy company stock at a certain price. For 2024, Crouch got $712,000 base salary with a target bonus percentage of 65%, resulting in a bonus payment of $462,000. And in the past, he was given retention bonuses. These are basically bonuses to make sure executives don't jump ship. The report also has a table showing all the outstanding stock options that these executives have. Stock options are a way to motivate executives to do well, because if the company does well, the stock price goes up and their options become more valuable. If the stock is underperforming, as they said, they are basically worthless. The non-employee directors, those are directors that are not employed directly by the company, also get paid. They get cash and stock options for their service on the board. The most any board member got paid here was around $94,000. Here we see how many shares are available under the company's equity compensation plans. There are over 1.2 million shares that could be issued upon exercise of outstanding options, and another 500,000 available for future issuance. The report talks about related person transactions, where people involved with the company are also doing business with the company. It's a policy to keep an eye on stuff like this. It's basically to make sure they are not ripping each other off. The last interesting piece is an annual compensation limit of $6,000 applicable to their chief executive officer in the event that such officer directly or indirectly controls more than 35% of their outstanding common stock. Alright, that's our deep dive into Instil Bio's proxy statement. So what's the story here? Well, on the one hand, everything seems pretty standard. The board is mostly independent. The auditors are getting paid a reasonable amount, and the executives are getting compensated in line with their responsibilities. On the other hand, it's always worth keeping an eye on those related person transactions and making sure everything is above board. And with a small group owning nearly half the company's stock, there's always the potential for those insiders to make decisions that benefit themselves more than the average investor. Overall, the company is doing as they should, and so far so good. But as always, it pays to do your own research and make your own decisions. What's your take on Instil Bio? Are you excited about their cancer therapies, or are you more concerned about the potential risks? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this analysis was helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe for more corporate deep dives. Don't forget to check out our Discord channel in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.